Okay, I just hit start streaming. It takes about a minute for YouTube to recognize it. But if you want to follow along with the code that we do and everything on your computer, just go to YouTube, type in VWork Games, VOTWARE. It is live now. Yeah, it's very intuitive. I'm not a fan of programming. There's one called I can show you guys that but organically. But yeah. What? Wait for the live stream, so you should take the thought that click on the profile, you find live now. Okay, sometimes YouTube takes a couple of minutes, so hit refresh if you're on there. I'll go ahead and check in and see. Okay, so mine does show live now, but no, it doesn't show anyone watching, so it might be. It'll look like this. Click on the profile. With the red live now. Yeah, so if you get on it and it comes up, correct it. Okay, there's 2 people watching, so it definitely is live. Yeah. looks like it's already been altered to upload to the channel. So, upload. Those who can't wait, what I'm not sure. So, mine's in third person. What you do on the floor? I'm going to hit the lights, and I'll start explaining what the project looks like so you can get an idea of what we hope to accomplish by the end of today. Or at least to get close. By the way, for those of you who are like really into learning this stuff, in my other classes I stream them as well. So when you're in Mr. Rendon's class, you could pull up a live stream whenever I'm teaching as well. Okay. So just showing what I did, and actually I'm going to do something new in front of you so you get an idea. I do not know much about how Minecraft works, so I had to kind of just do what would my version of Minecraft, knowing how the game works. So the first thing I made was I made a unique blueprint. Blueprint's any object with code. To do that, I hit right-click, blueprint class, chose actor. That's what we always choose for like 95% of use cases, right? And I made this thing called blueprint block, or block mineable. And I gave it a mesh, static mesh, 3D object. And then I was able to set that mesh as material, right? That's the graphics that go on anything. You know, remember we drag materials. It's the skin of an object. And immediately I chose the rust material because it looks like dirt. I then, very quickly, I went to here and I created something called an enum. It stands for enumeration, which is just a fancy name for a list. Okay, right-click, go to, I think it's in blueprints, and then you reach enumeration, and you get a list. And I made a list of all the different block types I wanted, and I can update this later. I made something called sand, dirt, wood, cobblestone, water, grass. And in my block mineable, I did something in the construction script, which I haven't covered with any of my classes at all yet, ever. So this, if we get to this part today, you'll be the first. So with the construction script, I can take my list, and I can change what happens, what branch of code we use, based on which selection in the list I'm choosing. So I made a variable. That variable's type is my list, my enumeration. And so it can be set to dirt or sand or wood or cobblestone or water or grass. And then with this switch node that'll switch based on that type, I can change the material, so the skin of that object. So I can change it to a sand material if the type is set to sand, a dirt material if the type is set to dirt, a wood material if it's set to wood, etc. And then I also added the features for blocks to have different health, so that it takes a lot longer to mine stone than it does to mine dirt, and etc. And to mine wood is about halfway between there. And so I put these different strengths, and I can set the strength depending on, again, just this one value called type. So I set the block's health is that what I called it. What that allows me to do in the editor, I can click on any block, and I made these variables editable. So I made all these blocks, right? They're all unique. But if I click on one, in the details panel, remember details panel in the lower right, that's how we edit all of our stuff, anything about any object. My enum, or my list, is now available for me to edit per object. So it's not like if I were to edit something just in this block mineable, it would change everything about every block. I don't want that. So what I did is, you can see these variables, again, lower left, one called type, one called block health, and those can be changed per instance, or what you could say just per unique block. And so I can click on a block, and I could literally just change this type from dirt to water, and watch what happens. It turns into water, right? And water has its own effect, by the way. Like, water doesn't have any collision, and I'll play it in a second. So when you walk on water, you fall into it, just like in normal Minecraft. I can change it to grass, and change to grass. I can change the cobblestone, change the cobblestone. I can change it to wood, right? Sand, etc. So we'll leave that as wood, and I'll drag the wood up, why not? The other thing is, I set my scale in my level designer to 50, because all these blocks are 50 units wide. So as I do my level design, whenever I drag something, it's going to snap over. Actually, it should be at 100. As you can see, that will cause it to jump perfectly to where the blocks are. So that construction script, by the way, is what allows us to do that. Construction scripts are code that executes, or is fired, or however you want to say it, before the game starts, while you're designing. That's what we put that in the construction script. And then for the player character, third-person character, I made a custom event called MineBlock, and what it has to do is it stores whatever the current block that the player says selected. And right now, that storing code is pretty unsophisticated. I only have it so that you can mine blocks that you're standing on, not necessarily what you're in front of, right? So that would be something you have to change. And then the player presses E key, that fires the mining block event. And then there's a 0.3 second delay, so they can just spam the key, just like in normal Minecraft. And then a certain number of these mine block events have to happen for the block to be destroyed. And the number is based on that block health. So this is the code for that. This mine block event happens on the actual block itself. It says, hey, give me the health of this block. If it's equal to 0, or less than or equal to 0, then, and that's true, I want you to destroy the block. That's what destroys the block. That's why that fires in the true channel. But if block health is not less than or equal to 0, so that this branch fires false, I want you to subtract the block's health by 1. That's what these three things do. Right? So now if I hit play, I'll show you what that looks like. Here I am, my little Minecraft block world. And there's my stone, the stuff we made. Where's our wood that we just made a second ago? Over here? Oh, I would change it to stone. So, like I said, water doesn't have collision, so if I jump into it, I fall into it. I gotta jump out of it. If I want to mine something, like this dirt right here, whatever. The way it works right now is I'm only sensing the block that I'm standing on, so I gotta jump. And you can see I have a little thing that tells me what block I'm on. If I hit E a couple times, we lose a block. Let's try and do this block right next to it. Hit E a couple times. Okay, I lost that block. Hey. So this is for Maria. I have a paper for you. Maria Mijangos. I have a paper. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm mining this block, and let's say I want to go even deeper. Let's try and get my character to this hole. I probably need to make it a little smaller. Okay, there we go. I can keep mining. Mine, E, mining again, E. And I even have bedrock, so you can't mine at a certain point. So there's bedrock. Can't get farther. And oh, wow. So that's my camera glitching, going through the blocks. I definitely have to change the camera in a second. If I were to show you if we were to mine something else, like stone, it's going to take a lot longer because it's more strong. So I'm hitting E, Hitting E, still 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 hitting E, and there we go. How long would I say? I have not made diamond, but what I want to make now is I want to make leaves, because I've done this wood stuff, but I have nothing to go into the tree. So I'm going to show you just what that looks like, and then we'll go get started on our new projects. By the way, if you have pulled up Unreal, most of you should have by now, should have loaded. You should find yourself on the new project category. Go ahead and select first person if you haven't already, because I will recreate this code and everything for you guys, and we'll do a first person project. Okay, yeah, we'll do first person. So select the first person template, and then make sure it says create with starter content in the section that says starter content. So we want to start with stuff, and then hit create now. Okay, so while you do that, I will explain and show you how I would create a new block type, right, like diamond or something like that. So I'm going to create a new block type. The block type I want to create is called leaves, right, because I want leaves on these trees up here. And I know I already have probably would be a pretty good leaf material, just like in Minecraft, from this starter content called the foliage something, SM bush, okay? And you can see here material, it's like this transparent leafy thing. So if I go find that material, I want to make that a new block. So what I'll do is go to my block mineable blueprint, right? And in event graph, in construction script, remember I have all of these. So this is coming from that enum, that list. So I want to add to my list first thing, a new type. So in my list, I hit new. And then I'm going to name this leaves. And then I'll hit save. And now when I go back to my block mineable, there's a new listing on this code that includes for leaves. And essentially what I want to do is I just want to copy this code, and for the leaf, I want to set its health to whatever I want its new health to be, probably pretty weak because it's leaves. And I want to set the material to the leaf material. So I'm just going to highlight this, Command C, Command B, and then I'm going to drag out leaves switch into this new code, okay, so that when the type of block is set to leaves, it's going to go through this leaves channel and fire this code. And all I want to do now is I want to take that material that's being used on this, called M bush, and I want to set that for the leaf. So go ahead and click that. M bush. Okay. And then let's say I set the block health to like 2%. And then I hit compile. That's in the upper left. That just makes your changes. It kind of runs the code on the changes to make sure there's no errors. And there aren't any. And so now I'm going to duplicate this. Duplicate it again. And this top one I want it to be, let's say, a leaf. Or I want to bring this one off to the side and make it a leaf. So if I change type to leaves, we get leaves like that. So I'll duplicate this a couple more times. And now we have our leaf block. So that's how easy it is. Just, in 2 minutes, we have a whole new block type. And the reason it's easy like that is we made a blueprint, aka a coded object, that can be many different types of itself. That is to say, there's only one unique blueprint I ever made in this project, which is the block, called block mineable. But block mineable can be many different types of blocks because I've made these settings for it. So there's my leaves. And I can't mine any yet because I'd have to put them on the ground. It's the only mine that's underneath me. There they are. So we're already on our way. So that's an idea. All right, let's get into the actual lesson. I'm going to hit File, New Project. You've already done this, hopefully. And I'm going to choose First Person. I'm choosing First Person, which gives us the gun. And my name is Minecraft 3, since I made Minecraft 2 yesterday. With starter content, it's checked. I'm hitting Create Project. It's fun. I could do this maximum quality, and I might. Why not? I'm gonna go with scalable 3D or 2D, just because Minecraft's a low poly game. But you don't have to do that. It's not gonna change it. So yeah, save on that. Okay, your guys should be Minecraft 1.5. I have Minecraft 2. All right. I don't want to get into legal trouble or anything with you, but yeah. Okay. So this is that template. Go ahead and let's hit play, just so you can get an idea of how the template works. So if I hit play, this game has like physics stuff enabled. You could blocks and then move over and stuff. These blocks have like physics and stuff on it. Minecraft doesn't really have physics. It has gravity, but it doesn't have physics. So that's something that we won't be really utilizing in a game like this. You know, unless, of course, you're making the next new Minecraft-like game, in which case, and you want physics to be involved, then by all means, go ahead. Arrow physics? I don't think so. I think the arrow is a line trace, which isn't physics, but that's a great question. Yeah, arrow might be physics.
Yeah.
What would you say that? True. True. It's a good question. I'm not saying there's no physics in Minecraft, but you can have lots of things being affected by different things. Environment hits a skeleton, the skeleton gets knocked back, that sort of thing, and still not have it be actually running a physics simulation. Is what we would call that, because physics simulations are fairly expensive. But it's possible. It is possible. It can be achieved both through literal a physics simulation or something totally not that. So okay, so you're all in this project. Go ahead and escape if you were playing already. The first thing I want us to do is let's just make our blocks. Let's get right into it. So right-click in the bottom folder called Content Browser. You right-click anywhere besides a folder, and then you'll get this new window that comes up, and you want to choose Blueprint Class. Can we do that? The other option you can do is the green button on the left. It says Add New. If you click on that, it's the same window. Okay, you do it that way. So I'll do that again. I hit Add New, and then you get this window. And you want to choose Blueprint Class. It's like 4 down. It's right towards the top. And whenever this comes up, about 95% of the time, you're always going to be choosing Actor. And then once you click Actor, it's going to create this new file in your folder, and you want to name it. Let's name ours Block, and then BB. BB means blueprint. It's a good way of naming things. Just so you know. And if for some reason you can't rename it, you can right-click on it and then hit rename, and it'll let you name it. How we doing? Any questions? Alright, once you've named it, go ahead and double click. And this is going to pull up this new window. This window is way too tiny to work in. So what I always do, and what I want you to do, is just drag up that tab up to the other tab until it expands. So once you expand, you can let go. Okay. And this is what a blank blueprint looks like. Okay, remember, a blueprint is just a coded object. Your character is a blueprint. I'll show you what that looks like. Stay on this, but I'll just show you, like, most of you know this by now if you've taken my other classes, but if I double-click on my character, right, there's this code. This one has quite a bit of code because it has all the shooting mechanics and stuff. I hit viewport, you know, I can see what my character looks like. So that's that. But I'll go ahead and exit out of that. We're on this newly created blueprint, so there's nothing there yet. It's totally blank. So waiting for us to add things to it to make it unique, to make it behave like a block. So the first thing we're going to do is in the upper left here, hit the green Add Component button. And what you want to find is choose this one called cube. So when you add component, a huge list comes down, but you'll see there's something called cube. That's perfect for what we want to do. So choose cube. So once you've chosen cube, on the right we have our details panel. The details panel is for editing any kind of properties about an object, any details, any attributes. So what I want to edit right away is let's change the material to something that looks like something from Minecraft. So in this material thing, mine by default says basic shape material or whatever. Click that drop down and you can choose any type of material in your whole project. And there's all kinds of ones. There's this one called concrete grime. That looks a lot like dirt to me. There's another one called rust that looks a lot like dirt. So choose either rust or concrete grime or grass, whichever one. What's that? No. Okay. And then because we've tabbed both of we have full windows of both things, let's jump over to our other tab for a second. So we're at the front of Unreal, just so we can drag a couple of these dirt blocks into our world. But before we do that, I want everybody to take a look at the toolbar. This is in the upper left of that center rectangle called the viewport, where all the level design happens. So right here, I'm pointing to it on screen with a laser pointer. That toolbar, that's where we change our different settings for how we decorate our world. So if you want to move an object, you check the move tool. If you want to rotate instead, check the rotate tool. If you want to scale it, that means make it bigger, you do the scale tool. But there's a number 10 here. And if you hover over it, it's going to say something about grid snapping. It says, hover over the 10, it says set the position grid snap value. We don't want that at 10, we want that at 100. Okay, so just click that and change it to 100. And the whole point of doing that is so that our blocks don't overlap. They want to fit perfectly next to each other. So if anyone's having trouble, go ahead and help your neighbors. All right, once you've done that, find your blueprint block. Okay, now it's going to be in Content Browser. You probably already have it pulled up. If not, for whatever reason, you need to look for it. Just click on Content folder here, so we can search all of our folders, and then type in block, whatever you named it, and it'll come up. But I want you to drag your block blueprint from your Content Browser, that bottom area, into your viewport, into the world. Okay, and then drag a couple of them in there, and they're going to snap right next to each other, which is awesome. And actually, this concrete grime looks like a good dirt material for me. I used rust in the last one, but I like this. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, yeah, I was asked a really good question. So this is something I've told some of the classes. I have a trick for copying and pasting stuff, because some people, you click on something, you do Command-C, Command-V, and then you paste it in the exact location of what you copied, then you drag out, you can do block, right? I have a much faster method of doing that. I'll make our folder bigger here. If you want to copy and paste something super fast, this is a tool you'll definitely use as a level designer. What you'll do is you hold the Alt key and then you drag out your objects, and it makes a copy. What's great is you accomplish two things at once. You made a copy, but you're also moving your object in the direction you want.
So I'll do that again. If I have this, I want to copy this block. It's not copied yet. Click Alt. While I'm holding Alt, drag out. Makes a copy. Right? So I can really rapidly do stuff like with that. Hold Alt and drag. Alt plus drag. You have to click Alt first, and you have to let go of Alt and then re-click Alt to do the next one. So you can't just keep holding Alt because it won't know what to copy. So Alt click and drag. So once you've got a few amount of blocks there, we don't have to fill up this whole world yet. That's fine. We just want some for testing purposes. Mid-stairs, cool. So if I go around and run through this, I like that this is first-person template because we have the gun, and I think what we'll do is we'll shoot our blocks to make them break, okay? To make them to mine it, and you could either use that as like, hey, that's Minecraft 3. What can I say? That's our newest update. Or you could obviously modify it later and make it so that you replace this gun with an axe, and then you make that tennis ball we're shooting invisible, and then you make it only go 3 feet in front of you, and then all of a sudden now you have original Minecraft mechanics. I think it could be modified, but I think for what we have and with the time we have, it'd be a game where you shoot to mine, which is kind of a cool idea. So that's that. I'm going to hit escape. So go ahead and hit escape. We're going to go back to our... Actually, let's see. There's a bunch of different things we need to do. We need different orders to do them. Let's see. What do I want to do? Let's start right away with our mining mechanic stuff, and then we'll make different types of blocks. So what I want you to do is go to your block blueprint. Okay, so we're back here. Back in this interface for block blueprint, go back. And we're going to add a block health. Okay. When I was doing this yesterday, I first called it block strength, and then I thought, wait a second, no, it's more like health. And I bet you that's what they call it in the Minecraft code as well. I bet you that's what they do. It's the health of a block. And when you hurt its health, after a certain amount, it dies, it goes away, right? It's the same idea. So what we're going to do is we need to make a new variable to store health. What? Where's what? No, it's not here yet. We're going to create that. Yeah, we're going to create block health right now. So to do so, to create block health, everybody take a look at the lower left of your, if you're on your block blueprint, go to lower left. There's a section called variables, right? And variables, if you hover right near, there's a plus sign, and you hover over that plus sign, it says plus variable. That's how we add a new variable. Click that. Click the plus variable. And it gives you a new variable. A variable is just a way of storing information. Okay? And there are many variable types. So what we want to do is the details panel on the right. First, we want to rename it, and then we want to change its variable type. So rename variable name to block health. Okay, and you can put spaces in variable names. I do. So block health. Yep. And then once you've done that, I want you to change the next setting right beneath the name that says variable type. Change that to something called integer, right? Integer is just a number, right? Our health is going to be a number. So the integer is the new type, and it'll be green. And once you've done that, on the left here is a couple gears, right by the save button. You want to hit that gear. It says compile. Hit that. And then that will compile everything, and it'll let us set the default value of our health. That is to say, what is our health when the game starts? When the block is brand new, it's never been hit, what is its starting health? Okay. So once we've hit compile, we can actually change the default value in the details panel at the very bottom of it, right? Go and change block health to 3. That'll be our default health. And we'll make it real simple. That'll basically mean it takes 3 hits to break this block. Don't do negative, because negative will mess up our calculations. So this doesn't do anything yet, by the way. We have to write the code that makes this block health cause the block to be destroyed when it goes to 0. So when this number turns from 3 to 0, our block should be destroyed. That's the idea. Now, one more thing before we go to actually do our code is take a look back here at variables on the lower left. And if you look at your block health, right on the right side of it, there's like looks like a little closed eye. And if you hover over it, it'll say variable is not public and will not be editable on an instance of this blueprint. We want to click that closed eye so that it becomes an open eye, right there, right on the same line as your variable on the lower left. What that means is we can then edit this value later on. On the Minecraft version I just showed you, Minecraft 2, I had that and I had my list as public variables, which is to say that when I go and I look at many of my blocks, each one of them I can go in details and I'll see that variable name, right? Because we want to be able to change this. So once you've done that, go ahead and hit compile one more time in the upper left. And then we're going to go to our event graph. So the event graph is a tab, 3 tabs over. You are on viewport before. Then there's construction script. We want to go on the third one called event graph. This is all where the code happens. To move around the event graph, how you do that is if you hold down right mouse button, you can move around. Right? Holding down right mouse and drag lets you move around. And I want you to find an empty piece of graph and then right click. So this menu comes up, and this menu is how we access everything that we want to access and do anything we want to do in blueprints and blueprint coding. And you're going to type in the words add custom, and you're going to find a setting called function called add custom event, and you're going to click that. Add custom event. It's going to give you the option to add the custom event. We're going to name this event mine block. And so when this event gets fired, we want to mine the block once. We want to drain that block health by 1, right? So once you've done that, go ahead and drag off of mine block. You're dragging off that sideways triangle, and type in the word branch, and then click branch. It comes up. Yep. Now we'll do our code off of this true and this false in a second, but before we do that, we want to do a little bit of a check right underneath this branch using our block health. So go ahead and drag your variable from the lower left, block health, onto the graph right kind of underneath in between your mine block and your branch, like this. I'm dragging it off, and it's gonna, you let go, and it's to say, do you want to get or do you want to set? We want to get, so hit get block health. Okay. Once you've done that, drag off of the block health, the little circle on it. So you're going to give you a new wire, drag off of it, and type in less than or equal to. So I just type in the less than and then the equal to sign next to each other. You could also type in the word less than. And it's searching as you type, so you don't have to type the whole thing. And you want to do the integer one. Integer shows integer less than equal to integer. Right? That's just talking about, well, what type of number are you using? We're using integers. Okay. And then click that node that comes up. Yeah, you drag your variable. You can drag a variable on the graph, let go, and it's going to ask you to get or set, and you choose get. You drag it, yeah, and then you drag off of the new block health that's on your graph, and you type in less than, or the less than sign, and you just want to click the one that says integer, less than or equal to integer. Okay, thank you. Stephanie, Ricardo, I have papers for you. So go ahead and come up real quick. Oh, Ricardo Gonzalez. Here you go, Stephanie. Okay, so let's move on real quick. Okay, so this is fine as it is. It says less than or equal to 0. We don't even need to touch that. You'll see that there's a red circle on the end of this less than or equal to, and then there's also a red circle next to condition on branch. You just want to connect the red circle to the other red circle, like that. Just drag a wire to it. See, the whole point of this is just saying, hey, if block health is at 0, do something different than if it's not at 0. And what we want to do that's different is want the block to disappear when it's at 0. Which we can go ahead and code now. That part's actually easy. So drag off of the true channel on the branch. I like to drag a little bit higher because I know that I'll be doing false channel code too. So I'm just going to drag off the true. About right there's good. And type in destroy. And you want destroy actor. Click destroy actor. And it says the target is self. That's perfect because this code is on the block. So it's going to destroy itself when this condition is true, right? So that's what that should look like. Now we need to put code in for the false channel to say whether, well, how do we drain our health? To actually calculate so that each time this event happens, it drains it by 1. So that's going to look like this. Go ahead and now drag your block health variable from the lower left again onto your graph. And this time we're going to do a set. Let's choose set. And you're going to connect that set into the false channel. Now, if we just left this code as it is, it's just going to set our block health to 0, which is no good. We want to actually subtract the block health. So to do that, we have to do a little bit of a minus calculation, right? So what I want you to do now is we're going to drag block health out again, just under this set, generally under this set node we have. And this time we're going to do get. So do get. And then once you've done that, you're going to drag off of that get, so that smaller block health. Let go and type in the word minus. Or you can type in the minus symbol, either works. You want to choose integer minus integer. And by default, it's minusing 1, which is perfect for what we need. So all you got to do now is drag the output of that into the front of block health on our new set. And that's basically it for the calculation part of it. Okay. So what we want to try now is we want to actually fire this event when we shoot one of these blocks. Okay. So there's a couple ways to do that. I'm sort of thinking out loud here. This is a little different than the way I did it yesterday. Yesterday, the way I did it is I put that code on the player, but we may be able to just get away with putting that code on the block itself because, and follow along now, go ahead and click this cube in the upper components on the left, upper left. So click cube. No, we're not adding anything. We're just click cube. And if you scroll down to the details panel, on cube, scroll to the very bottom, you have these events that fire when things happen to the cube, including 2 that we can use to sense whether the block has been hit. One's called onComponentHit, the other one's called onComponentBeginOverlap. These have varying degrees of usefulness. So right now we're going to start with hit, and we'll see how that works. And if not, we can move to begin overlap or whatever. But that very first event says onComponentHit. There's a green plus sign. Go ahead and click the green plus sign. And when you do that, it creates an event. You bet I am. Yeah. So, yeah. So what we're going to do is you have this onComponentHit. In parentheses, it says cube, right? Drag off of the other actor setting. Drag up other actor. And what we want to do is we want to check for, hey, what's the thing that's hitting the cube? And I actually don't know what this is called, what the bullet or whatever it is called off the top of my head. So I'm going to type in cast2, and I'm going to look for the thing that looks like it. It's already in a project. It might be called projectile. Yeah, so cast a first-person projectile. Click that. I'm going to double check that that's what it actually is. Yeah, I think so. First-person projectile. Thank you, guys. Okay, then what I want you to do is drag off of the front of cast a first-person projectile and type in the name of that custom event we did called line block. So what we're saying here is, hey, when the cube gets hit, make sure it's being hit by that projectile, and if that's true, do our mine block code, which drains the health by 1, and if it goes to 0, destroy the block. Right? We've coded that far. Now what I want to do now is I want to add a little debugging tool that'll be useful to us because our code may not work. There might be something funky with the first-person projectile. We may have, it might work out as far as there's no errors, but it might not work as intended. So what's really nice to check if code's working is to use something called print string. So I want everyone to drag out the word print and then type in print string. That is just fancy programmer's terminology for print a word onto the screen. String is a word. Okay, and even by default, you can see it says in string, it says hello. Okay, and normally what I'd have you do, like what we did with flashlight tutorials in my other classes, is I'd have you type in something into in string, but I actually want to get 2 pieces of information in here. I want to have a word that says something, and then I also want to get the name of our current block. And to get the unique identifier, so we know that we're hitting a unique block. So to do that, drag off of this pink circle in print string. So drag off there and type in the word append. And that lets us combine 2 things. There's an A and there's a B. In A, just type in you hit block, and then like a colon. Yeah, you hit block colon. And then for B, we're not going to write anything in B. Instead, we're going to drag off of B, so we get another pink wire, and type in get display name. Okay. And then once you have get display name, it has this object thing. Drag off of object and type in self. and choose the one that says get reference to self. What's that? So A should say you hit block colon. Then for B, we're not typing anything. Instead, we're dragging off of it, so we get another pink wire. And then once you get that pink wire, you're going to type in get display, and you want to find the thing that says get display name. Choose that node. And then get display name, the last part is going to say, well, what do you want to display? Which name? And you want to, that's where the object comes in. Drag off an object and type in self. All we're saying here basically is, hey, what's the name of self? What's the name of this actual block that is doing the code? Yep, get reference to self, that's right. Yeah. This way, even if our code doesn't work, we should be able to see that we hit a block. And if this print string doesn't get fired at all, then we know for sure something funky is up with the projectile, and we need to use a new way of mining something else. Ah, play. Mine's working. Yeah, you can hit compile if it's not compiled already. If you hit play, it should compile for you. But I'm actually real. Oh my gosh, I love this. All right, go and try it. See if it works on yours. How are we doing? Do we have projects that are working? Can you put a what? Yeah, we could do sound effects. We can. Yeah, let's. You know what? I did this in my first class. Went really well. I took suggestions. First class yesterday, and let's do that. I'm gonna write some stuff on the whiteboard for what features you want to add next. I can think of a bunch, but I want to do more. Definitely what I want to do is I want to make it so we can have a couple more block types, so you can have harder blocks and weaker blocks. Let's see. All right, I want to add a sound effect. Okay, what other suggestions? What do you want to do? Turn the gun into a mining laser. Okay. Okay. AI. Big AI. What else? Any others? Those are some pretty noble tasks to do. Okay, so what was suggested is we want to do sound effects on the block. So we definitely do that. We want to make the gun a mining laser, which I do not know how to do off the top of my head. And a pig AI. Also very good. So, yeah, maybe a pig or a creeper or something. All right. Okay, so go ahead and hit escape if you're playing currently. Before we get to those two suggestions, let's make two more block types. Let's make a stone block type, and let's make like a maybe a grass block type. Okay, so we have a little bit more variety, so we're not just dealing with dirt. So go ahead and go to the front of Unreal again. And what I want you to do is I want you to add something new. We're going to add that enum that I showed you later, that list. So click the green Add New button in the lower left in the content browser. Yeah. And I want you to go to the Blueprints category. So there's a category called Blueprints. And you want to choose the one that's called Enumeration. So we're at the front of Unreal. We hit Escape if you're playing. And in the lower left, there's a button called Add New. It's green in our content browser. Click the Add New button. Then this new window that comes up, go to the little category. It's labeled Blueprints. We're not clicking Blueprint. We're going to the category called Blueprints. And then that brings up a little other window when you hover over it. And you want the thing it's called Enumeration. And it shows like a picture of a piece of paper with numbers on it. Okay. And once you've found that, you're going to click it. Then I want you to name it block type. You can't have spaces for this, but you can name it block type. And then double click it once you've named it. And once you've double clicked it, it's going to bring up this new window here. And on the far right, there's a new button. Click new. And now you can put a new name. All an enumeration is a list. Okay, it's a list. And so that display name, we want to change that first display name. We're going to name it Dirt. And then that's fine. Once you've named it Dirt, hit new again. Name the next one Stone. And then hit new again. And name the third one Grass. It's okay if you can't spell it for now. You can come back and edit these later. So once you've done the hit save, and that's all we got to do for that. That's all we got to do for that. Go back then to your block blueprint stuff. Go back to your block blueprint. And now we're going to add another variable. So go to the lower left here. Go to the lower left and hit the plus variable. So we're adding a new variable. And name this block type. And this time you can have a space if you want. What we want to do after we've named our variable block type, take a look again in the details panel. Variable type we want to change. Mine's currently on integer. We don't want that. We want to change it to our list. So in variable type, click the drop down, and you want to type in the name of your list, which is block type. And the list you made will come up now. And then select it. We're not dragging. Once you've done that, hit compile. And once you've done it, you can see in the default value you have that list. And it's a drop down, dirt, and then it says stone and grass and all that. Okay, moving on. We want to go to now our construction tab. Remember, we're on event graph currently. We want to go to the construction script tab, so click that. It looks just like everything else. It's graph, it's code. Except this code happens before the game plays. And this is where we're going to basically code us, allowing us to just change the block type, and then it'll look different and change and act different and everything. So off of construction script, actually, no. What you're going to do is, you're on construction script, drag off your block type variable, and do get. So drag block type onto the graph and do get. And then drag off of the circle next to block type. Yes, it should be. So he was just asked, should block type be public? Public is when you have the eye ball open, so make sure the eye is open. Anthony, are you in here? Anthony Esparza? So I have a paper for you too. So I want you to drag off a block type now and type in the word switch. and you're going to see something come up that says switch on block type. Click that. Okay. And then just connect the front of construction scripts to the front of switch on block type. Connect those. And you can pretty much see what's going on now. I mean, it's basically saying, hey, whatever block type is at, you're going to do code either on dirt, on stone, or on grass. So the next part we're going to do is we're going to change the material of our cube depending on whether it's dirt, stone, or grass. So if it's grass, it should be a grassy material. If it's stone, it should be a stone material. If it's dirt, it should be a dirt material. So to do that, drag your cube in the Components tab on the upper left, drag it onto the graph. And then once you have your cube there, drag off that little blue circle, and type in set material. And choose the one that just says set material. And connect dirt into that. And with this new node that says set material, at the very bottom it says material, and then select asset is a drop down. Click the drop down and choose the material you're using for your dirt. What am I using? I'm using concrete brine. That's the name of it. Right? Next thing you want to do is just copy and paste this for the other two. So to copy and paste, it's really easy. Just left click and drag a box around anything. So if you just put your mouse in empty graph area and then left click, hold and drag, you can highlight those two things. Just want to highlight the set material in the cube. And you're ready to Command C, Command V, copy and paste it. Command C, Command V. So I copy and paste it for stone and for grass, and just make sure that your stone material is different. So I'm going to go and I think there's literally something called cobblestone. So definitely choose that. Yep, I have cobblestone here. And then for grass, there's a material called grass. I'm going to set grass there. Okay. All right, there's one more thing we want to do, and then this code will be complete, which is we want to make the stone take longer to mine than the grass and everything else. So to do that, really easy. We already have the variable for it. We have our block health. So just drag block health out onto the graph, and you're going to do a set and connect it right after the set material, and you do that 3 times for all 3 channels. So for the dirt, in this set, it's default to 0, so you want to make sure that you set what these are, right? So set, for dirt, set it to 3. For cobblestone, set it to 10. So it needs to be hit 10 times. And for grass, I'm going to set that just to 1, just to be different. We could always change these later. How do you what? Okay, so I'll repeat one more time. What we did is we just dragged our block health onto our graph, and we chose a set. So now we're setting the new numbers for block health. We did that 3 times for each of our list, each item in our list. Now, once you've done that, again, make sure that in the bottom left in variables, that the eyeball icon next to block type is open. Okay, that means we can change it outside the loop. Once you've done all that, hit compile and go to the front of Unreal and find a block, click on it, and look in its details panel. And if you look in the details panel, you have the variable called block type. It's currently set to dirt, but if you change it to stone or grass, what happens? So see, I'm actually changing these. I've got 2 stone here, and etc. Change some of your blocks to the new types. So I'm going to take a second to play it and try it. If you're behind, help your neighbor. If you're ahead, help the person who doesn't. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. I'm going to test this. So my grass should break on its first hit. Let's see if that happens. It does not. Second hit? Okay, so it's 2 hits for grass. And it starts to take a while, but eventually it goes away. Are yours working? All right, now let's get started on the stuff that were the requests. So now I feel like we have a good, confident place to start with. We not only have blocks that can be mined, we have blocks of different strengths that can be mined, and they even look different. Now, let's do the sound. Let's do a different sound for when it gets mined. So to do that, we're going to go to our block blueprint. Go to your block blueprint. Go to event graph. And on that event called onComponentHit, we're just going to continue off of that. So go to the very end of the code there, and we're going to do our sound here. So the very end of that code, you have your print string. Go ahead and drag off a print string, just continuing the code, and type in spawn sound. Yeah. Spawn sound at location is what we want there. What's cool about the spawn sound at location is it not only spawns a sound, but it spawns it where you want it to, which we want it to spawn at this actual, on the block. So it's not just playing right in our player's ear, so if the player turns or is far away, depending close, it sounds like it's the block that's being demolished, right? So once you put spawn sound at location, there's a sound drop down for which sound you want to pick. There aren't a lot that come with starter content, and some are a little bit obnoxious. So I would say, what's a good one? Maybe, yeah, you could do explosion. That would be okay. Or collapse might be okay. I'm going to pick explosion 1, and we'll see how that happens. And then I think that's it. I think by leaving it by location 00, what that should be is that should be the 00 of our actual blueprint. So wherever the block is, it'll explode. So if I hit play, yeah, it is. Mine's working. It's hard to hear over the shooting of the gun sound, but I can hear that happening. If you chose a more extreme sound, you'll definitely know. Yeah, I hear that. Now, if you wanted the more like dirt crunching sound effect in Unreal, you can just Google sound effects library, find something, drag it into the content browser of Unreal, and now you have that sound to use. Alternatively, you can go to import, file import, whatever. It's real easy to put files in Unreal. So There's all kinds of sound effect websites online. You can go in, find Minecraft sounds, probably a bunch of free ones, and put those in, and then start doing it. If, for example, you wanted, and we won't do this now because I want to get to some of the other stuff, unless it's really requested. But if, for example, you wanted to have different sounds play depending on what you're mining, because that's how Minecraft works. You know, when you're mining stone, it sounds different than when you're mining dirt. What I would do is I would make a sound variable called, block mining sound or something. I would plug that into this spawn sound part, and then in my construction script, right after set block, I would set the value of that variable, that sound variable, to whichever sound file I wanted to play for that specific type of block. So my dirt channel would look like set material, set the block house, set the block health, set the sound variable to crunchy dirt. Right? And my stone one would look like set the material, set block health, set the sound that variable to crunchy stone, right? And that sort of thing. What? What's it? Okay. Okay, so moving on, now you have sounds, and I gave you a little bit of a roadmap as far as how you want to make those more unique. What did we talk about? We talked about pig AI, and then what was the other thing? Oh, the mining laser thing. Okay. Let's start with the mining thing. So you have two things. You have this projectile that is kind of obnoxious looking and not very realistic in any way, right? So let's see, what do we do this here? Okay, so everybody go in your content browser and make sure the content folder is selected, which means we can look up anything in the whole project. And in that middle search bar, it says search content, type in projectile, or start typing projectile. And you want the thing called first person projectile. It's the blue one, because it's a blueprint. It's a coded thing. So you want to double click on first person projectile. That's going to open up the first person projectile. It's your bullet, right? One of these is essentially spawned every time you shoot the gun. So in the components here on the left with this open, you can see that there's collision component, sphere, and then something called projectile. Click on projectile. And what's cool is that has all of the settings for that projectile right here in the details panel on the right. So once you have the projectile and component selected, you can see all of the settings. And the settings here are great. This is exactly what we want to modify. Things like speed, things like does it bounce, right? The bouncing effect isn't very, attractive. It doesn't look that good, at least in my opinion. So there's something called projectile bounces. Should bounce. It's check marked to true. I'm going to uncheck mine. You're welcome to do so on yours. Initial speed, I think the gun is way too slow. So we're going to change that from 3,000 to 10,000. And make sure you change max speed also to 10,000. You want them to stay around? Not as fast. Interesting. So I was asked the question, how do you make it so it doesn't, this bullet doesn't disappear or whatever? It's probably being destroyed in the event graph. And if that, yeah, it's exactly what's happening. So I'm taking, we're not going to do this, but I'm going to explain just because you asked. If I go to event graph, you can see the very end of it has this destroy actor. What I would do is I would just add a delay in between here by dragging off, typing in the word delay, selecting that, and then that will delay by however many seconds I put into duration that destroy actor happens. So I can change it to 15 seconds. So that way those bullets stay around for 15 seconds. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to leave that code alone. But that's how you would do that. Going back though to projectile, it's faster now. If I hit play, I'm going to hit play to test it. And, oh, that's weird. Okay, it already does delay. It doesn't look pretty when it doesn't bounce, because it just sort of sticks to it. I'm going to turn bounce back on for now. We can change that later. Actually, alternatively, what you can do is select sphere in your components on the left. So you go ahead and stop playing, go back to first-person projectile. Select sphere, you're on first-person projectile. In details, type in the word visible, and then uncheck it. And this will make the bullet totally invisible, which is going to work out if we're doing some kind of... Right? So I'm a fan of not looking at that bouncy tennis ball thing. So to get rid of it, again, you select sphere, and then you type in visible on details on the left, on the right, and uncheck the visible property. Okay. So we still want a laser though, if we're doing some sort of mining laser. So let's put the laser into effect. Now we can't see the ball being shot out of the thing, so we'll go to, you want to go to the front of Unreal, and this time we're going to look up in the content browser the character. So type in character, and you want to see first person character, double click it, open it up. And in first person character, go ahead and go to viewport. Oh, we have 1 minute. Okay. All right. File, save all, guys. Thought we had longer. File, save all, so you have it for next time. And that's a wrap.